Well, it's a I mean, it's a potential strategy.
It's a potential strategy.
although-
Somebody even call it a conspiracy theory. Oh,
Dr. Power, your guests have arrived.
thank you very much, Shazzy. Come on in, folks. Have a seat. That's great. Good. Well, thank you very much. Just bear with me 1 second. Dave Adams dropped by for a minute, and Dave normally drops by in this day and educates me a little bit and chats about some things that are going on in the world to make our sessions more lively. So, Dave, you were talking to me a few minutes ago before we got into this talk on NATO about two things that drive the economy, drive the nations, things we're going to fight about in the world coming down is energy and water, the two key factors. Yeah. You found something interesting.
Yeah, I found a little documentary about a gentleman who is a billionaire. He owns a company, a successful company. Most people have probably seen the little bottle of 5 Hour Energy.
Yes.
See that everywhere. So you see, this is this gentleman. This is his company, and he's decided that those are the two big issues that need to be tackled. They're the elephant in the room. That doesn't want, and oil won't solve all of the world's oil problems.
Nope.
It's certainly the water issue is a very big issue. And I thought what was interesting about his strategy, to speak of the strategy, was that here's a guy who has amassed some money. In fairness, he has the cash. Not unlike companies like maybe Apple, who are sitting on cash. But he's decided to take what I would consider to be a Keynesian or a anti-austerity strategy here, where he says, I will spend this money as fast and freely. If you want tools, buy all the tools, as opposed to what's your business case for this tool, and slowing down those kind of processes, which is another strategy.
Innovation, entrepreneurship.
And I thought it was very interesting, and I thought you'd be interested in that, and as well, your strategy course, the students in your strategy course might be interested in seeing this. It's called Billions and Change, and I got a clip for you if you want to show it to them.
Dave, thank you. Would you stick it on the front?
No problem. Let me go do that now.
Thanks very much, Dave. Good. Well,
All
folks,
right.
that was Dave Adams, also Bonnycastle to you folks, and he's just gone out there to put the clip on.
There are 7 billion of us in the world today, and we're facing some huge problems. Awareness doesn't reduce pollution nor grow food. That takes doing. I'm Manoj Bhargav, the founder of 5 Hour Energy. I realized we're making a lot of money.
He has cracked the Forbes billionaire list.
If you have wealth, it's a duty to help those who don't.
You know he's trying to save the world, right? Yeah, well, that's happening over there.
We're going to the Invention Shop, also known as Stage 2.
It is the most well-funded playhouse for engineers you can possibly have.
Our goal is to deliver products which can directly impact humanity.
If you come up with something cool that's not useful, we don't do it. I have no interest. I don't want to be cool. I'm never going to be cool. Right now, I'm concentrating in 3 areas: water, energy, and health.
The drought has left its mark here.
Some communities could soon run out of water entirely.
China, India, Africa. Now, there's a lot of places around the world there's a shortage of water. This is the RAIN project.
We're able to take unusable seawater and turn it into drinking water in a matter of minutes.
This machine can do 1,000 gallons an hour. You create this barge, which has a lot of units on it. Put it a couple miles offshore, pipe the fresh water to land. If you have thousands of barges throughout the world, we can address ridiculous amounts of people.
This is our program we call Free Electric.
The idea here is really simple. A person uses a hybrid bicycle. You pedal for an hour, and you have electricity for 24 hours. Billions of people. This will allow them to have unlimited energy, pollution-free. That's everything.
Stage 2 works on medical devices.
We're working on a project called Renew.
It's a product that enhances circulation.
We squeeze blood from the legs back into the core body, so it acts almost like an auxiliary heart.
Poor circulation is the basis of a lot of illness. It's not about treating disease, it's about preventing disease.
If you don't think through it, you just put up more hospitals. Now, we're also doing that. There's an old story about a blind man heading towards a well, and there's a guy who's watching. If the blind man falls into the well, who gets the blame? If you're watching something that you can prevent, you gotta do something.
We'd like to change the world, make it better. It's a great experience to be with someone that could probably do it.
Manoj is driven by the fact that work is never done.
The world can be changed. It takes a crusader.
My approach is make a difference in other people's lives, not just talk about it. Let's do stuff. This project is going to drive me crazy.
You're already crazy enough. What's it to do?
Well, that was good. I'm glad Bonnie Castle stopped by for a few minutes to say hello to us. Let's get the news for today, then, if we can, have a quick look. But a few administrative things first. I'm marking papers like mad. This is Monday, you see this. So for the balance this week, I do hope by Friday I'll have them all finished for you. About an hour apiece, 70 of them, plus my other things doing in the week. It's a jamming thing, but I'll get them to you as fast as I can. I'm aiming for Friday night, so you'll have them for the to prep for the final exam, particularly the individual assignment. I'll give you a sense of what might have been included. So working on that. I'll put the exams up on the site. I'll email you your actual exams. I'll send it to you, less the questions, but you get a sense of the flavor, the framework, and what you're being asked to do. A chance to read in, so I'm trying to bring the temperature level down. So I'll send those out to you also on Monday, the day you get this video. It should be up for you. The last session, it's a fun session. I call it the wrap-up session. But for me, it encapsulates the complete course. I want you to start by looking at the 3C video, the three little circles that come together in the A sweet spot. And your task as strategist, based on what we've taken in this brief time together, is to populate those circles with using the tools you have to know everything you can know about your company, its strengths, its weaknesses, the idea of a part of the pest analysis you put in there, and you put all the data in there to fill that circle. Go to the customers, populate that to everything you know about your customers using the tools you can, and then the competitors using the SMART model, competitive analysis, strategic group maps, those sort of things, put them in there. And so what we're doing in the 3Cs is basically getting all the data we can, all the science of strategy, if you would, filling in the models and dropping it on the table, and then comes the interpretation. So I want you to collect all the data, drop it there, and the 3C models is just try to identify for you that your value proposition, your place that you should be, is identified in there as that sweet spot, that A spot, and then you can target out from there as to where you want to encroach and move past that. But that's your terrain, that's your piece that you defend as you do it. Once you've got that clearly established with all the data and information in your head, then you start the waterfall method, starting to reconfirm that your vision, what it is when you grow up, you want to be 10 years out, get that clear in your head, the mission, who you are now, what business you're in, who are your customers, what do they value, get that clear. And then you move on from there, setting at the high level, some goals for your organization, kind of loose, amorphous, but some broad-based things of what you're trying to accomplish that supports the mission, that in turn supports the vision. And then from there, you go on and develop strategies, maybe 3, 4, 5 strategies for each one of those goals, depending on your resources, as to how you're going to accomplish it. Strategies are how am I going to get from here to there? How am I going to get from here to achieve that goal? And you design that, and then from there you develop the little action plans that I put in there with the start date, the end date, the resources needed, and cost it all out. But that's sort of a way you do it. It's not a linear process as I show it in the wrap-up, of course. It's a zoom in, zoom out, and depending. But if it's a brand new, fresh company, that's probably the approach you're going to take. If it's already an existing company, you're just going to zoom in and out, you're going to tweak, you're going to adjust, reconfirm, this is right, and you're always, particularly in these turbulent situations, revisiting your strategy. I think at the opening session I talked in terms, there's no year in my mind, there's no 5-year plans anymore that have much value, because I can't tell you what the economy is going to be in 5 years' time. But I want you to have your strategies clear and accurate, all the data for the next 6 months, and maybe even a little shorter, depending on what industry you're in. It moves quickly. As we've seen with the Internet of Everything, it's going to be moving that much quicker as we go through it. So I guess that's the administrative stuff. Let's talk now for the fun thing for the week. We've had a number of these little things I throw in. Of concern to me is this island of garbage that's heading towards the BC coastline, the Oregon coastline, about the size of the Vancouver Island. It's large. You can go online and have a look at it. Coming from the Fukushima nuclear disaster they had, all that radioactivity stuff washed and is heading across the Pacific, and it's now landing on our beaches in Tofino and places like that. on the shorelines, and they're cleaning it up. And our government has adjusted the radioactivity threshold test, and they've increased it to a tenfold higher that we're allowed to have it without difficulties. And have a look at that and see what you think of it. And so they're telling us it really isn't an issue right now, that there is some radioactivity, but it's not an issue. And it's going off to our landfills. And if they're wrong, it could be a disaster. But have a look at that, and the question becomes, who pays for this? Are BC taxpayers paying for this mess? A good question for this week to have a look at and be aware of the ecosystem and environmental concerns for us that's heading our way. The time to get this, of course, we have the situation yesterday of the Russian plane being knocked down by the Turks, and then the Turkmens, the tribal group along the northern Syria area, were started taking rifles and AK-47s, machine guns, shooting at the two pilots that were hanging there by their parachutes, coming down, killed one, and interrupted, and I think shot down a helicopter as well on the rescue mission, trying to get the other boy back. And quite a story on its face. But if we zoom out for that for a few minutes, I don't have a lot of authority for this, but it's always fun to try to play chess and link the pieces for a few minutes. Is this simply on its face Turkey, and it's a very strong-willed leader there, like Putin is for Russia. The Turkish leader is equally strong and hard-nosed. It's as simple as that he didn't want people flying for an instant over his territory. He's fired on other things before. It may be as simple as that, but I would suspect something so serious as to shoot down a Russian plane would probably have some higher authority than simply the pilot in that cockpit. I'm sure it went back to the headquarters of the Turkish military, and I wouldn't be surprised it went back to the NATO headquarters for at least an awareness, etc., to see if there was some direction left or right on to do this. And if that is true, in my mind, I was wondering whether or not that was not a way to galvanize under Section 4 of the Article 4 of the NATO alliance. That says if you shoot at one of our members, you effectively declared war on all of our members. And I'm wondering if that's not a strategy here to solidify NATO to stand as a bloc to Russia, which they've been reluctant to do, actually come together as a NATO force and say no to Russia. And is this not maybe driven by the Americans, who haven't been able yet to get the Europeans to be so strong on coming together? And so this will unfold, but I guess my message would be, and this is only Wednesday prior to Monday you see this, I'd be watching for that Article 4 to be mentioned somewhere in the discussions over the next few days in the paper. And if that is actually implemented, that this is deemed to be a declaration against one of its members, that has significant consequences for us. If it doesn't, then that's equally a sigh of relief, and this will just play out on the economy side, that Turkey is quite economically interdependent on Russia for its energies, etc., and we'll see some sanctions and things provided. But for a brief moment, looking at it today, I'm saying, is this on another scale, another level of the chessboard that they're playing here, that they're trying to drive us to more of a conflict situation? Have a look. No right and wrong answers. Culture of impunity on construction tendering process in Quebec. The Charbonneau Commission has found it completely tainted all the way through construction from one side to the other, unions and things, and they're now looking at that and what they're going to do about it. And no big surprise, it's like in organizations, in companies, if it's rotten at the top, it'll be rotten all the way down. If the CEO takes the paper clips from the storage room, then others are going to take paper clips from the storage room. If senators in this country do what senators have been doing, no big surprise that the people who elect them are going to do the same sort of thing. And so, an interesting thought. We can watch about brands. We can talk about corruption in Canada and corruption abroad. And in fact, is it really corruption abroad when we go through India and Bakshi, and somebody carries your bag or wants to stamp your passport and holds their hand out? We feel that's a corrupt practice, because we're taking our mental model, our human rights model from Canada, and applying it to their culture. And their culture, of course, it's a little more open and flagrant, but nevertheless, it's part of how they do business or have been doing business. It's part of the paycheck for that baggage handler to expect Bakshi in order to do the job. In Canada, we're a little more subtle. Lawyers take their clients to the clubs for dinner. They go golfing with them. They pay for this and pay for that. Pharmaceutical sales reps used to do those sort of things. waiters still want a tip of 15%, give or take a bit. We're just a little more subtle in Canada doing it, but we still have that same idea of some tips are okay, other tips we call corruption. And SNC-Lavalin last year, as the year before, I think, went big time and got really nailed for this and cost them dearly because there was some bribery going on, some buckshy being paid to a foreign country. And we have acts against that, laws against that, that makes it a crime. But we can look at that and the dangers of it for your company and not to get involved with it. What else have we got on here today? Oh, Ottawa's deadline. You recall we're going to have them all in by the folks from Syria, the immigrants in by the first of the year. That's been pushed back a little bit, and I noticed today that the 2,800 we're going to get for BC went up to 3,300, and then the last thing I heard about an hour or two ago that they may reduce that number for BC down a little bit, and I thought they were generally going, as I said, to logging camps and things, but that's not true. There's some army camps being opened up and some army bases being reactivated to put some of them up in Ontario. But in this province, it looks like a lot are coming right into Vancouver and places like that and are going to be settled. And so more power to them. They're doing what they can to help. And it's good for the optics because you recall Canada, one of the first things Prime Minister Trudeau did was to tell our American friends and others we're taking our 6 planes back and not going to be bombing Syria any longer. And I, for one, supported that. But we are going to bolster the number of boots on the ground marginally, of just a few. We're not in big numbers. 69, I think, was the number we're playing with, a small number. But I wouldn't mind even doing some more of that as we do it. But this was a good optics to show that, yes, we support the movement over there. We're part of the NATO force that's acting in Iraq, not NATO, the United Nations force is acting in Iraq. But we don't have the same sort of authorities yet in place, full authorities of governments and things for Syria. And so I was pleased that we're bringing those people back to Canada. And so here we have Ottawa missed the deadline for the asylum seekers, the immigrants coming back. And so some of the funding is in trouble for the 2,500. Initially, this was all going to be done by the first of the year. Now it's being stretched out a little bit. The numbers in BC at one point were 2,800, went up to 33, and then a recent date, a couple hours ago, I heard we're dropping down to a number far less than that. So it's still a little hazy, and I thought last week we said we're going into some logging camps to put these folks, well, they sort of were reintegrated into, culturalized into our nation. Not so. In Ontario, it'll be army camps. Here they're going straight into Vancouver and other places. And so it's something to look at, but it's a good face saver for Canada internationally. As Mr. Trudeau is over there at the G20 conference talking about the economy and talking about the climate change, two big conferences with significant repercussions for us over there, and at least the pressure is being brought to bear on him about supporting the team in the Middle East. And so we're putting a few more boots on the ground, but we're taking our 6 planes back, and this may go a long way to helping that we're doing more than most on bringing immigrants to Canada. So good for him. Now let's see what else we got here today. Yeah, it was nice that Bonnie Castle dropped by for a minute. A number of you want to know about him and thought you'd like to meet him, so I thought I'd ask him to make a cameo appearance today. Yeah, they talk about Trudeau as the calling card folks there. Oh, this is sad. The 1/3 of the children in Manitoba, 1/3, are poor. They live below the poverty line. 1/3. And that's a tragedy. And in this province, it's 1 in 5 in BC live below the poverty line. These are youngsters just by circumstance of birth may not have the same rights to get to a university like you, may not have the environment at home to grow and enrich and be nurtured and have the strengths to do well. And we made that point, I think, in our open session, or the second session, we talked about a guaranteed annual income. We must do something about this growing mass of the people on the far end of the spectrum that don't have supports. We have to come up with something innovative way to do that. And the Internet of Everything, I think, could be the way to at least do a cost benefit. But we've been through that story before. Certainly in our city, there's been a lot of debate lately. Because of Victoria's climate, there's a nice climate. I looked at the long-range forecast. There's only about 4 or 5 days that will be below zero. When I say below zero, I'm talking like 1 or 2 points maybe. But basically, it's from now to almost February. It's a very mild winter for us. The El Nino is playing part of this. And as a result of that, we got a lot of folks coming here from Canada to camp in our parks, to put up a tent, and tent cities are popping up everywhere because they need some place to live, and it's too cold to be in Red Deer, Alberta, to be living in a tent. And this is a tragedy to have this many, in a rich country like Canada, have 1 in 3, 1 in 5 children without the basics to help them grow, nurture them, and they're not doing that. Climate policy, I see Premier from Alberta put in her day-to-day carbon reduction plan on the eve of the carbon tax meeting that's taking place. And I'm wrestling with that. It comes at a cost, but I think most of us understand the economy, that there's only the $1 to go around. If you spend it on carbon tax credits, then you can't spend it on other things. And I know the argument for the environment that there comes a point in time that you can't eat money. If you destroy all the fish in the river and all the trees, you can't eat money. So I understand that, but again, great promise for the end of everything. I'm just wondering what the focus, that we're still talking of oil sands and pipelines and major infrastructure things, when maybe we should be putting that money into, we talked about the idea of alternative energies, and as fast as we can getting off the fossil fuel, which will meet the requirements of the climate change people at the same time. What's this? Bradwell, Saskatchewan, Justin Trudeau. Yeah, again, talking about the oil sands and carbon tax credits, they're into that. In British Columbia, unlike Alberta, we're forecasting a budget surplus, but a decline, less than we planned, but nevertheless it's on the plus side of it. Unlike Alberta, that's on the negative side. And not the big money, but we have a small surplus in Canada, in BC, and that was going to be larger based on the LNG and northern pipelines and things, which is falling away. And I want to talk, I mean, that's different from the Alberta model, and in Alberta, of course, there's really hardship over there. There's the unemployment. There's the it's so based on one industry, and that's oil and gas. It needs to diversify, and they're not alone. We see the same through the Middle East. The other day, I was reading that Global Foundries, the second largest chip manufacturer in the world, is now up for sale. It's a moneymaker, cash cow, innovative, entrepreneurial, looking ahead, a good asset to own. But it's a sovereign wealth fund from Saudi, and they're selling it off because they need money to keep the dance going back in Saudi Arabia because the price of oil is down. Dubai is doing exactly the same thing. The numbers there are collapsing. And so the whole Middle East, based on oil, is starting to show some fissures, as is Alberta, just on a different scale. But Dubai, to their credit, have gone in to develop and take their money. They recognize what's happening, and they're building some other industries to diffuse the damage of simply being solely based, like Alberta, on oil and gas. And I think it's something we have to think about, that with this Internet of Everything and this turbulence that we're experiencing, I don't think we can go back. I was talking a little earlier today about the idea that at my time in life, I've observed that there's certain rhythms to everything. And there's rhythms to the waves that come in on the sea, and there's rhythms to the economy, there's rhythms to climate change, and there's a rhythm to conflict. And it comes and ebbs and flows if you look over the history of things. And this is the first time in a very, very long time, not my lifetime, but before that, that all three have converged into a very tight span of time. And so it's no surprise to us that we see this turbulence in the ecosystem on all these fronts, all seem to be happening at the same time. And the turbulence will subside, but we're exposed at this point to dangers in those areas, and we need to tread lightly as we make our way through this idea of the Russian plane being shot down, more of this Middle Eastern turbulence. It will subside, but it's a dangerous exposure we have for that and for climate change and for the economy, and we're dancing in that area right now. And the point I'm making here for Alberta is that Alberta can't go back. We have to understand that this new industrial age that we're in, it seems to me that we cannot go back. We can't get the $120 barrel oil anymore and buy 4-bedroom homes and 3-car garages. Those days are finished for us. We can't, if we spend a lot of time looking in the rearview mirror trying to find solutions to that and putting in programs and subsidizing like Bombardier, trying to get back to the old days, we're going to do ourselves injury. We've got to look for today and look for tomorrow and design plans for that. And we're not doing that, I fear. Anyway, that's that sex. Yeah, I'll miss our little get-togethers and the chance to chat online. They've been quite informative for me. I have to tell you that these courses are the highlight of my year. I mean, I enjoy the others, the research I do and the community service and things that we do around the campus and committees we sit on. But the highlight for me is the opportunity to sit and learn from you folks on these discussion sites. They're really great. Well, up marginally from last week we spoke. Gold about the same as last week. The dollar is about the same as last week. Interest rates started to move up, an issue for housing, but they're all watching what happens in America. Malls re-engineer the Santa experience, and what's happening here is that the malls are under attack from the online. We've talked about that in the class, and as a result they have to find some way to attract you and I to go shopping in a mall. And I don't think any one of us, I mean, my shopping is the 23rd of December. I just dread going to the mall. In fact, I recall the Body Shop. One young lady was I guess I looked so forlorn and helpless standing outside the Body Shop. It was just packed with people. And I just stood there looking at it in sheer disbelief because I had to go into my shopping list to get some stuff for my daughters and the wife at that point. And I looked forlorn, and bless her heart, she came out, grabbed me by the arms, and said, "Follow me." Didn't say a word. Follow me, took the basket. She asked me who I was buying for. I told her, and she just filled the basket. Bang, 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 bang. Took him by the hand down to the cash register and got me out. That was an experience, and it's memorable. But it's not always the case. I hate going shopping, and I'm sure many. But anyway, the malls are working on this experience and how to make it better. And so they're trying to find some way to upgrade Santa Claus to make it interesting, some facelifts to the stores. Try to find something amazing, because they're under attack by Amazon and others, and they've got to find some way to restore the balance. Bombardier are out there touting their momentum, notwithstanding that they've stalled their C-Series sales, but they're out there telling us that it's all is well, not to worry, and Bombardier is doing well. And so you can draw your own conclusion on that. But it looks to me like puffing the sail. Canada must change its course. And I guess that's what we're talking about here. Canada must change its course. The CIBC CEO warned that we must focus on advanced skills, high-value products, and innovation. They're the key to escape the future of slow growth. And so there's no question, we are in a knowledge-based economy. We need innovation, need entrepreneurship, and without that we fail. And new mental models, and we have to look out in front and grasp this Internet of everything and exploit it to the extent we can. And if we don't, there's only the quicker the dead, and I guess that's what the Bank of Commerce fellow was saying. Ex-hospital clerk fined for privacy breach. They were selling confidential maternity information records for investment companies, and he got 2 years probation in order to pay $45,000 in fines. Didn't say anything about the investment companies that bought it. They got off, I suppose. But it's an interesting breach of trust, but it again points to the dangers of stepping through the looking glass of the Internet of everything, and how we secure the data and how it can be used. And here it wasn't very well done, notwithstanding the hospitals and government tells us have faith, believe that our data is safe. Retail investors are keen on BC. Well, yeah, that's fine. We've talked about that. Revenue falls on Hewlett-Packard. That's Karina's company. Revenues are down. The TPP, the Trans-Pacific Partnership, would let foreign investors bypass Canada's public interest. And again, it's a danger flag. When Harper and others brought this in, they said we had a chance for full discussion in Canada to accept or reject and look at this thing, 6,000 pages, 30 volumes. And we're just getting little snippets, little snaps of light of this thing. There has not been a good discussion on this thing, a good analysis done on this thing. And I fear the direction we're going. And today there's an editorial comment analysis in the Globe has the same sort of concerns. And we've talked about this, the idea of the advantage they have. I mean, we have one situation that I think it was the American FedEx company thought that they would sue Canada, because that's what this allows them to do under this new TPP agreement. FedEx thought they would sue Canada because we subsidize the Postal Service, and therefore the Postal Service is competing with FedEx, and the American system wanted to sue us. And on a number of occasions, things of that nature have been successful. And so it's quite a danger to Canada without fully understanding and thinking through all the different levels of what this TPP will do for us. And I have a sense that it was rushed through with the idea of buying some political capital with some folks, but I'm not sure we're there. Bombardier, big spread on that. Canadian Pacific, still haven't heard anything back from Norfolk Central. We talked last week about the merger maybe taking place. Renault Van Company, another German company, no, French Renault, has got pollution 25 times more than allowed. The same idea that Volkswagen went through, well, now there's another one that's been picked up on that, and they're looking at it. General Mills, yeah, this is an interesting story. General Mills are going to a cage-free environment for its eggs by 2025. That's 10 years away, but it's one small step, I guess, that they're getting chickens out of cages and won't buy any eggs on animals that are raised in cages of that nature. And I think that's the right thing. It's the older you get, I think the more you get concerned about animals. And a number of years ago, they actually have human rights in Spain for gorillas. It's part of the law. Human rights have gorillas. Gorillas have human rights in Spain. And I guess I don't mind going that far, that animals should be treated with respect. And this idea, get him, I don't know why it takes 10 years to get them out of the cage, but McDonald's is doing the same thing. It buys 2 billion eggs a year, and they're saying in September, they said a goal in September to buy cage-free in 10 years. So McDonald's has a 10-year situation as well. So good for them. I give them a thumbs up with that. But Black Friday sales, we'll know more next week as we're doing our discussion, but that's critically important because it gives some sense of foreshadowing for Canada on how well this goes. How strong will the online presence be on the Black Friday sales? Will it all be going to online, and will the malls be suffering? Will the volume be up there? Will the consumers have the money to spend in America? That drives the economy. Without the consumers spending in America, the American economy collapses. And so we want to look closely at the sales numbers coming out next week as a result of the Black Friday. It's an interesting and informative thing for us to look at. Defense budgets in 2014 I thought was interesting. America spends just under $600 billion on defense spending. That would include, if I took China, Saudi Arabia, Russia, Britain, France, Japan, India, Germany, South Korea, Brazil, those countries, if you added them all up, would come to the same number, $600 billion. That's what America spends. And then you have to ask yourself, could you do more with that $600 billion? Certainly the industrial complex that Eisenhower warned about is doing well, but at what cost that money could be spent on? Certainly we talk in terms of budget for cybersecurity, and armored vehicles and jets are going up. But in this class we talked about the 6 domains of war, and the war is underway as we speak on the economic front, on cyberspace, on space. Those things are taking place as we speak. And more money is being devoted there. And so again, good stocks, I guess, to buy if it continues this way. Black Friday, what else did I talk about? I got a leak in my roof the other day. A small little drip bothered me. So I'm looking at that. The failed promise of a weaker loonie. A little chat in here, a little bit of a story about the Bank of Canada almost suggesting we deliberately weakened the loonie so that we would have a better place in the global economy, more competitive advantage. Our products would be cheaper, and so we dropped the loonie down to, let's say, 75 cents. It's 72 or 75 cents. So basically we're saying everything in Canada is 25% off, and we thought that would attract a lot of business and improve our balance of trade and help our economy restart. Hasn't happened. Numbers are still low and grinding. And this fellow called Scott Barlow from the Globe and Mail suggests that the only way out for us is that the U.S. growth has to grow and their consumers have to do what we just talked about on Black Friday. If the U.S. economy does not catch fire and get going, then there's little hope for Canada in the short and medium term. And so we're watching. The only way up for us is that the American dollar gets stronger and the American U.S. consumer buys. So let's watch for that. It may be some indicator of how things will continue to go in Canada. Well, I think we've covered enough for today, folks. That's the end of our sessions. I'm going to miss it. I've enjoyed it very, very much, and I look forward to meeting you folks on your EL2. I know you're going to enjoy that session. It's a fun course to wrap up with. But it's been fun, guys. Call me anytime you want. I'll be here working with you on the weekend. Bye now.